When 2024 begins, I always said in those TBR video, I can't believe time flies, it is already New Year. And look at us now, it is already June. I can't believe we are halfway through 2024. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Dan. We are at mid-June, meaning that we are already halfway through 2024. Also meaning that it is the time to do a mid-year freakout book tag. This is my first time doing it and I hope you will enjoy it. Before tackling all those interesting questions, let's briefly recap my reading statistics so far in 2024. By the time of filming this video, I have finished 30 books, over 15,000 pages, with average ratings of 3.6 stars, and I have only got 3 5-star reads. 29 of them is fantasy and only one of them is sci-fi. Also, I have listened to 3 audiobooks and read 2 books digitally. The rest, of course, is physical books. If we look at it monthly, May is my best reading month because I finished 6 books, and April got the best rating with 3.8 stars. Just looking at these numbers, I think I have the best reading year so far. Finishing 30 books is definitely the most in my life. It is not like a really great number in this community. For sure, you can find people read more books than me. But compared to before, maybe I can only finish 1 book in a month 3 or 4 years ago, to now I can finish 5 or over 6 books. I think it is a massive improvement. The rating itself is not perfect with the average below 4, and I think it is because sometimes I can be quite harsh. My rating is usually between 3 to 4. Unless I really like that book, I can give it up to 5 star, which is rare. I only got 3 so far in this year. Or if I am not a big fan of that book, then I usually would give it a 2 star. 1 star I will reserve it for those I have DNF, but luckily I don't have any. Overall, I am actually quite proud of myself. So now let's look at all the questions for this mid-year freakout tag together. By the way, feel free to answer the questions while you're watching it. We can do it together. The first question is the best book I have read in 2024. For this, I have actually picked up 2 books and they are both historical fantasy, which is probably my favorite fantasy subgenre at the moment. The first one is He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan, the second book of the Radiant King duology. I really appreciate how Shelley Parker Chan has incorporated Chinese cultural elements into a fantasy world. This book is so different from the first book, She Who Became the Sun. We particularly follow the heart, the mind of our characters rather than focusing on the warfares. I like how dark it is, how deep it goes when we are exploring these complex characters. Especially Wang Baoxian, who lived in the shadow of someone else and he tried to become someone important. And then, not a surprise at all, we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, the first book of this series. Do I need to explain how much I love it? I have done a video about all these Chinese historical references of this book. It is about a war orphan called Rin trying to find her foot in this brutal world. From just don't want to marry this old guy arranged by her foster family, to study in a war academy, then protect her country. I really like the fact that R.F. Kuang has done extensive research about the Qing dynasty, the last Chinese empire, and integrate this framework to build a successful fantasy world. If you haven't read it, check this series out. It is great if you're into historical fantasy. Then the second question is about the best sequel I have read in 2024. It is quite a tough question for me because so far in 2024, most of the books that I have read is actually the first book of this series. So there are not too much for me to choose from and I can narrow it to 2. Firstly, I have Of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill, the second book of the Bound and the Broken series. I like this book more than the first one and it only gets better and better. We follow our main characters after the massive conflict in the first book and the groups have splitted. To name a few, we have Kanan and his group to trying to get back, his sister Alan's dangerous journey. We also have a new POV called Ding, who has led a rebellion against the Lorien Empire, and we even have a POV from a character appeared in the first novella, The Fall. I like it more because we are not following the good old epic fantasy tropes. We are looking at the bigger picture and the relationship between our characters are getting interesting and more entertaining. Then I have The Light of All That Falls by James Islington, the last book of the Lacanius trilogy. This book I would say shows how a series, a trilogy should end. In this book, we are following the good old 4 characters. We have Davian, we have Caden, Word, Asha. Even though this book is actually quite long and sometimes the pacing may be a bit slow, I like how every detail is tied up by the end of the series, and I especially love the emotional epilogue. Everything happened for a reason in this series. My only concern is when will that novella come out to fill up that massive plot hole? Otherwise, everything is perfect. The third question is about the new release I haven't read but I want to. Honestly, I am so bad at keeping an eye on the new release because I just simply don't write it down. I love checking out series that are complete rather than jumping into a new one without finishing all those I have started. Now I can think of one new release that I desperately need to read, and it is The Will of the Many by James Islington, the first book of the Hierarchy series. I think I have told you guys before, the only reason I haven't started this series yet is only because I want to finish the Lacanius trilogy first to see how I feel about James Islington. If I like the series, then I would definitely check out The Will of the Many. Now I have finished the Lacanius trilogy and I really like the work by James Islington, so I think this book is definitely on my radar. The next question is about my most anticipated release for the second half of 2024. This is such a simple question. It is definitely Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, the 5th book of the Stormlight Archive. Do I need to explain much? In Brandon Sanderson, we trust. I can't wait for December to come, and it is not just for Christmas, but I want to check this book out. I'm just waiting for any news about any publisher would do a special edition of it. If not, first thing first, on the 6th of December, what I will do is rush to the bookstore and get a copy of it. I bloody sound like a Karen. I can't wait to get back to this book, and the only thing is I have forgotten some of the details and I need a recap of this series. 5th question, biggest disappointment? If I need to find one for this year, it is definitely 5 Broken Blades by Mai Collin, the first book of the Broken Blades series. I think the disappointment in reading is usually coming from the overhype in the book community or the synopsis promising too much. And I think this book is hitting one bird with 2 stones. No, hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. Just by looking at the synopsis, I would think that this book is about 5 people who are so bloody brutal, trying to take down the God King to take the throne. Then these 5 assassins, hitmen, or even an exiled prince would play a mind game to try to be the only winner. At this point, you would think that this book gonna be so dark, so bloody, so full of deceptions and lies. Turns out this book is so heavy with romance. We are following 3 pairs of lovers on this journey. But the romance for me is too instant and not substantial. Then this so-called mind games, lies, deceptions, there are no stakes in it. It is more like I will work with you so that I can get a better outcome, but it is not just for the throne. The ending and the twist are just not my thing. I'm sorry about it if you like this book. After biggest disappointment, of course we have the biggest surprise. I think this will go to the Book of Doors by Gareth Brown, and it is the Gospel GSFF February book. I think the surprise here is about the setting of the book. It is a time-traveling no fantasy, which is not something that I usually read, and I will for sure not pick it up in a bookstore when I see it. We have a group of characters who want to protect all these powerful magical books, and on the other hand, we have the evil ones who try to collect all of them and manipulate its power. In a time-traveling book, the last thing you want is to be confused by it, and I think this book did explain the detail very well. Every detail or even the background of our characters are fully explained, and I also like the banter between our characters. The 7th question is about my new favorite author. I don't want to repeat the books I have mentioned, otherwise it will be R.F. Kuang, Ryan Cahill, and Shirley Parker Chan. But I think to surprise some people, I would say Sarah J. Maas. This year I am out of my comfort zone and try to read romantasy, and who got the biggest name in this genre? Sarah J. Maas. So the first series I have read is The Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood, and then I listened to the Throne of Glass series. Honestly, I feel like Sarah J. Maas is so good at writing romance. Now I'm on the 4th book of the Throne of Glass series, and looking back, you can see the improvement in the Crescent City series. I enjoy the world building in the Crescent City, and I also love the interesting relationship and also the smut between Bryce and Hunt. Reading this 800-page long fantasy book feels like to me it's like watching a reality show that is full of drama and unexpected turns. The next question is about my new fictional crush, and I'm sorry guys, I don't read for crush so that I don't have any answer for it. So jumping to the 9th question is about my new favorite character. I would say it is Ver in the Lecanius trilogy. In the first book, he was like the companion to Davian, and I can't exactly remember anything significant happened to him. But starting in the second book, he took up a leadership role and he has to convince other leaders that the threat from the north is real. Then in the last book, he would go to the battlefield to become a commander to give critical response. The situation is getting more dangerous. Ver has to learn that he can't save everyone simply and should make a decision that can save the most. I really love his growth throughout this trilogy. Coming to the 10th question, books that make me cry. I would say that the only book that can make me cry is again The House of Earth and Blood. When it is nearly the ending, Bryce has to go through a lot and fight alone, and that part was actually quite emotional because I am a sucker for friendship. After crying a lot, we need to find a book that make me happy. It is such a tough question because most of the books that I have read is dark adult fantasy. Not all of them can make me happy. If I need to pick one, I would say it is The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan. Just by looking at the synopsis, you may think that it is such a dark, serious fantasy about finding out who kills the father of our main character. But it is not the case. It is like a murder mystery mixing with some uncharted elements. We follow our main character, Lucan, to Saphrona, working with a street rat called Flea to find out the truth about his father's murder. It is such a fun ride with lots of dangers, and I also love the banter between Lucan and Flea. The next one is interesting. The most beautiful book I have bought so far in this year. It is a difficult one again because I am a member of the Ghostbird GSFF and they specialize in doing special edition and they all look stunning. But my favorite, the most beautiful one is actually not from them. Rather, it is the Powder Mage trilogy from the Broken Binding. First of all, I love how the spray edge of these 3 books gonna complete an illustration. And then take a look at the naked cover of each book and then also the end paper on the front and in the back. I count myself very lucky because I finally received an invitation from them and I can't wait to get more beautiful fantasy books. Finally, we come to the last question. What books do I really need to read by the end of this year? I think first of all, I need to complete the Powder Mage trilogy, which I recently started. Next month, I'm gonna read The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, meaning that I'm gonna finish the Poppy War series. Then I'll have the Green Bone Saga by Fondaly from the Broken Binding sub in July, meaning that I will start reading it in August and finish the series by October. Not to forget, I still wanna catch up with the Bound and the Broken series, so I still have Of War and Ruin and The Ice by Ranka Hill, and I hope that I can finish these 2 by October. If this plan goes well, I can clear off quite a lot of books on my TBR, meaning that I can put more in. The first one I can think of is The Dardanian Dynasty by Ken Liu. I have heard quite a lot of people are loving this series, and the books will just get better and better. And of course, some of you say that I'm gonna like it, so I can't wait to check them out. I will probably start it no later than in September so that I can complete the series before 2025. Then I have the Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson. I'm not too sure will this series be related to the Stormlight Archive. To play safe, I think it is better for me to catch up with the rest of the Cosmere first. So I have to finish this series before December and I hope that I can start it in September. Also, I would like to get back to The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I am currently 8 books in and it's been a while for me to check this series out. And I don't think that I can complete this series by the end of the year because I still got such a long way to go. But I will probably start reading the 9th book in this winter so that I can complete the series by next summer. And then I also have some books that are on my TBR but they are not a complete series yet. I have God Killer by Hannah Kenna, The Wheel of the Many by James Islington, The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, The Rest of the Crescent City, also The Water Outlaws by S.L. Huang. This I don't have a particular time that I need to finish by, but just knowing that they are always on my shelf. Let me know if you have read any of them and see if there's any interesting one so that I can prioritize it. So here comes to the end of the mid-year freak out book tag. I hope you all have a great reading year so far. You can also put your answers to these tags in the comment below. So if you have enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I'll see you real soon. Goodbye.